So looking at me, she can't, just looking at me, she can't distinguish who I am. She has to hear my voice and hear me talking to make
That's how
that.
she knows.
Yeah.
Hello. Is it okay if he can he see the front?
Yeah, yeah. You can go around wherever.
Oh my.
Now, am I holding her okay? She's not really holding on.
Yeah,
So
no,
do I need-
you're fully supporting her so she doesn't feel like she has to hold
Oh, okay.
on. So just whatever is most comfortable for both you guys. And it's a little bit more difficult too because that towel's in front of you, so it's harder for her to wrap around, but don't want her to ruin anybody's clothes
Oh,
today.
I know. It's okay. I don't know why I was thinking they wouldn't be as soft as this.
Mhm. Yeah, well, a lot of people see pictures of wild sloths that have
Right,
a lot of
which
that
are-
moss and algae and stuff on them, and
Yes.
their coats are really coarse
Right.
because they've got to be able to keep that moss and algae on their backs for camouflage.
Yeah.
And they do have a really important ecosystem that lives on their back, full of that moss and algae and fungus and bacteria and even moths that live all throughout their fur.
Oh.
And they have a symbiotic relationship with those moths.
Yeah.
So the moths need the sloths and the sloths need the moths in order to survive.
What does the moth do for it?
So the moths are really important for the sloth because they give the bacteria to the sloth for them to be able to digest their food. They produce a very specific type of bacteria in their waste, and so the moths will be climbing all throughout the sloth's fur and going to the bathroom and everything, and when the sloths groom themselves, they'll lick up some of that waste and get that bacteria that they need to be able to digest their food.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, and that bacteria is really sensitive to temperature changes and temperature, drop in temperature.
Yeah.
And sloths cannot maintain their own body temperature, so if the outside air drops in the rainforest, some of that bacteria may be wiped out, and they need those moths on their back so that they can lick up more of that bacteria.
Oh,
But in
interesting.
captivity, after they've established that bacteria colony in their gut, they'll keep it the rest of their lives because we keep them in a controlled environment. We
Right.
never let it drop below 78 degrees in here, and that's what temperature that bacteria thrives at the best.
Oh, okay.
And so that's why we always keep it that in here. But if we were to let it drop below that or leave the door open to their outdoor enclosure when it's below, like 75, and that's really bad news for that bacteria. The sloth could live in a temperature like that, but not the bacteria. And so the sloth's body temperature would drop as well because they can't maintain it themselves, and that bacteria would be wiped out. And obviously, since you don't see any moths or anything like that living on her, she doesn't have a way to get that bacteria back up, and they don't make any form of a synthetic bacteria like that. And so it's really sensitive and really important that we make sure that temperature always stays the same. And you wouldn't think that it doesn't make sense for the temperature of somebody's environment to dictate how they digest their food.
Yes.
But it's that way for the sloths.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
How much do they eat a day?
On average, they eat about 10%, but if they're offered really high quality food like this a lot, then they tend to eat a little bit more. That's why a lot of people are surprised about how quick the sloth that we have here can move. Because they get a higher quality diet.
Sure.
This is not the type of food that they get in the wild.
Now this, is this like their little claw or finger or?
Yeah, it's a
do you
claw.
see that?
Now she's tolerating it right now because she's
Oh,
eating.
she's eating, but
Yeah, she's
normally
eating, but normally she doesn't really like it when people touch her claws or her
No.
paw pads. Because their eyesight is so poor, their paw pads are really sensitive, and that allows them to figure out what they're
see.
grabbing onto.
I see.
So she
Okay.
doesn't really like it when people touch them and move her claws and stuff like that.
Sorry about that, buddy.
She just gets really distracted when she's eating.
Sure, I do too. How long has she been here?
She's been here since she was about 5 months old.
Oh, wow.
So as soon as she was weaned from her mother, she was raised in an ambassador program that conditions their babies to be this way. Sloths, typically people think about sloths as being slow, gentle, docile animals, and they are as long as they're left alone, but as soon as you try to pick one up that's never been picked up, never been held, never interacted with people like that, it would be essentially like holding a feral cat. People don't think that sloths can move that quickly, but if they're startled, if they're scared, they definitely can. And like I was saying, trying to get you to bring your finger out of her mouth, because she does have 4 really sharp canines back there in the back.
Okay, gotcha.
And if she thought that was a sweet potato and decided to chomp down on it, it would not feel good.
That makes sense.
And so it would be the same way if she was actually startled and trying to inflict damage, she definitely could. And so that's why there's even if a sloth is born and raised in captivity around people their whole lives, that doesn't mean they're going to be comfortable with being held. they have to be, you know, every day worked with just a little bit more and a little bit more to slowly work them up to that point. And so the mothers in his ambassador program actually were clicker trained to know that when they heard that clicker sound, the breeder was going to come up and give them a snack and then just borrow their baby for just like 10 or 15 seconds while still standing right next to the mom. So mom's never stressed, therefore baby's never stressed. And it's always a positive interaction that that baby is having with people. But if that sloth were to grow up not ever being handled or held or anything like that and be like a year or two old, and then somebody tried to hold them, it would go very different. They would not be comfortable with that. And just because the sloths that go through that program have been raised that way is not a guarantee that they're going to become an ambassador animal like Zoe is. They have to meet 2 requirements. They have to genuinely enjoy and actively seek out human interaction. And that's not going to be just a normal sloth that has not went through that same program. So it's a lot of work that goes into these guys to get them to the point that they're at now to be able to be held like this.
Will she be bred at some point?
We have the genetics to be able to. We have Flash and Dash, our 2 other males. Now Flash, he was born and raised in captivity, but he was not raised the same way that Dash and Zoe were. So we don't ever hold him. And we know some of his lineage, but not very far back, and so we're not planning on breeding him at all. But Dash, we got him from the same facility that we got Zoe from, but he tracks his sloths way back, and he knows that they are completely unrelated. So we could breed them in the future if we wanted to, but we don't have any plans to right now. And I know that belly is so tempting to pet too.
I know, I took my hand
Yeah,
away.
when she's extended out like that, but you do have to keep in mind that a sloth's natural position is going to be on the underside of that branch, and a predator like a jaguar or an ocelot or something like that is on top of that branch. The first thing they're going to grab is going to be a leg or a paw or their belly. So that's why those areas are pretty sensitive for a sloth.
That makes sense.
Even though she's been born and raised here and never had anything like that to be afraid of, still animals like this have, you know, got that hardwired into them to be a little bit more on edge about things like that. Especially since she can't hardly see anything, you know, so she just sees shapes, and so if all of a sudden something touches her belly and she don't know what it is, the first reaction is, you're not gonna be happy. And their field of vision is also extremely narrow. It's essentially like if you were to cup your hands like this together and try to look through it, that's about all they really see. They don't have any peripheral vision. Yeah.
Are you wanting?
She may be wanting some more food there.
If she goes to lean back, is it okay to put your hand back behind her to support
Yeah,
her?
as long as you're just supporting her, and as long as you're supporting down underneath her like that, she's got excellent core strength, so she can extend all the way back without any support and be able to bring herself back up. She's not like a baby. And they do that quite often, you know, they can be holding onto a branch, completely let go with their front feet, only be holding on by their back and extend all the way down and still be able to get back up. So they're more impressive than people would think with how strong they are. And their grip strength is incredible. Their grip strength is about 3 times stronger than a person's.
Really?
A sloth has the ability to, from the moment that they are born, hold all of their body weight suspended by just one claw holding onto a branch. So that would be the
How much
equivalent
does
of
she
a
weigh?
newborn.
She's not light.
No, right now she's probably about 15 pounds. She
Yeah.
just went to the bathroom yesterday.
Yeah.
But she can get to be up to like 20 something pounds before she goes to the bathroom. Because they only go once a week.
I think
So
I had heard
yeah,
that.
when they do go, it is a massive amount.
You ready to hold her?
Whatever I'm supposed to do.
That's totally up to you guys. It's 2:13 right now. Usually we switch about 2:15 or so. That way it gives equal holding time. You guys ready to switch now?
Yeah.
Oh, whatever, I mean,
Okay.
So you won't have to do anything. She'll just transfer onto me. Once she realizes that I'm standing here, she'll just hook onto my shoulders. Come on, girl.
Let's go not. Come on. We're not.
There we go. Yeah, and I'll have you guys trade out that little towel there. That way you don't ruin anybody's clothes.
it would be a badge of honor.
Yeah, especially in my white shirt there.
Oh, yeah.
So like that?
Yep. As long as, just tuck it in your sides just a little bit more. That way she's got somewhere to wrap around. She'll wrap
You're
around
gonna
your
tell me
torso
exactly what I
first.
need to do.
Just support underneath her booty there. There we go. And that's her most comfortable position, is up high around somebody's shoulders like that. If you actually want to take both your hands and scoot her up just a little bit higher, she'll give you a nice little hug there on your shoulders like that. Yeah. That is her most comfortable position. From the moment that we got her, she showed us that that is her happy place. If she's startled or if she's scared, or even if she's just got a full belly, the first place she wants to go to is up around your torso or up around your neck like that. People that have shorter torsos, usually she snuggles a lot more, or if you have her up high like that, just because she has the ability to actually, snuggle in like that.
Sweet. Oh.
She was just in hungry mode for you.
Yes.
She's got about 3 modes: hungry mode, snuggle mode, and sleeping mode. And that for a wild sloth, if they're not actively eating or sleeping, they're just hanging there resting and digesting their food. So that's just kind of what she's doing right now. She's just got a lot of a different position to be resting in than a wild sloth would. Scientists used to think that sloths slept upwards to like 20 plus hours a day.
Yeah.
When they do rest, they rest in what looks like a sleeping position. They'll be holding on to that branch up really close to it, and sometimes they'll even put their head in between their front legs so you can't even see their eyes. So you would assume that they were sleeping, but in reality, they're awake. They're just not moving because they're things that are on the. I have to be careful sometimes of what I say because when I'm on a live, certain words will trigger things to where it will shut the live off.
Okay.
But things that are on the ground that could be after a sloth most of the time
Right.
are on high alert. So they're looking for things like that up in the trees to be able to go up there and grab a hold of.
I see.
And so a sloth, if they're not actively eating or sleeping, they're just hanging there, not doing anything because they can't really move around and do a whole lot. And nor do they have the energy storage to be able to do so. So they eat about 95% of leaf material in the wild. And the leaves that they're eating are extremely low in calories, and it takes calories in order to create energy. So since they don't have a whole lot of both or either, they don't really have the means to be able to just be exploring, climbing around, and doing weird things like that. Do you guys have any other encounters today, or is it just the sloth?
I think just this one.
Yeah.
Are you with her happy?
Well, you definitely got a treat. You got her the full side of her. You can see the darkest spot that she is on her head right there is the color that she was all over her body when we first got her. When they're first born, when they're still really young, they're really dark, and that's because they're not born with all of that moss and algae already on their backs. So they blend into the chest of the mother a lot more easily if they're a dark color like that, rather than if they were that light creamy color. Now by this age, if she were in the wild, she would already have that whole ecosystem developed on her back, all of that stuff, all that good stuff that helps them to be able to not only camouflage, but digest their food as well.
How long does that take in the wild?
By the time that they're weaned from their moms around, if it's a 2-toed sloth, around 5 to 6 months old. 3-toed sloths usually stay with their mom for about a year, but by a year old, they've got that entire ecosystem on their backs. They're just ready to go, ready for them to be just off by themselves.
Do they separate themselves on their own, just like
Sometimes.
they feel like
Sometimes. So they're only nursing from the mother for about 5 weeks. The mother, obviously we just talked about how energy expensive it is to just be climbing around and doing random things like that.
So producing milk must be a lot.
Exactly, and sloths don't have the ability to store milk like other mammals do. Other mammals will have like a milk letdown reflex where if they hear like the baby crying or suckling or something like that, they'll let down the milk. But sloths don't have that. So as soon as they feel that baby nursing, they have to produce and provide that right away. There's no storage in between, so it's
That's
extremely energy
interesting.
expensive, yeah. So they nurse for about 5 weeks, but then they stay with the mothers for not only protection, but to just kind of learn how to be a sloth, what things to do, what things not to do. And it's funny that sloths all kind of have their own little personalities to them, as well as their favorite foods, and wild sloths do as well. They all eat the leaves of the sarcopia trees, but there's 3 or 4 different types of those sarcopia trees, and they all taste just a little bit different. So after that baby kind of established which tree they like the best, they'll stay in that tree maybe even the rest of their lives as long as that tree is prolific enough and producing
Really?
enough leaves. Yeah. But if they were to go through some type of a time where that tree wasn't doing the best and they didn't have as many leaves there, they could go to a different one. But they don't really move around
Are
a whole
they
lot.
solitary?
They are very solitary animals by nature, and so that's why so much work has to go into a sloth to get them to this point, because this is not natural for a sloth, which is surprising to a lot of people because they think about sloths as being really gentle and slow.
Right.
But yeah, they are very solitary animals. They don't have the same type of bond as other mammals do, like a horse. You know, even after that baby horse is weaned, they still like to stick around mom. But sloths don't have that same type of bond with their baby. Obviously, they do it first. They do give birth in the trees, and so that baby will drop and just be hanging by its umbilical cord. So that mom will have to pick that baby back up. She'll bite the umbilical cord off and then keep it. But if the umbilical cord snaps and that baby goes falling to the floor, the mom will go down and get it. She does care for it, you know, obviously at the beginning, because she spent 11 months of her life cooking that thing.
11
And
months.
so it is, you know, it's already energy expensive to make a baby, so they want to give it the best chance that they can. So they'll go down and get it, but after that baby has learned all that it needs to from its mom, and she's, you know, thinking that baby's ready for it to go off on its own, she'll just leave it. And it's not always that the mother will leave the baby. Sometimes it says the baby will wean itself and go off and find its own tree. Especially if mom's staying in a tree that they don't prefer those leaves, then they'll go off and find their own.
Different flavors.
Mhm. But they do generally like the fresher, more smaller baby leaves on the end of the branches or up on the tops of the trees. And that's why those sloths will stay up in the tops of the trees most of the time. And those sarcopia trees can go up 100+ feet in the air. They're really massive trees.
What are they called again?
Sarcopia trees.
Sarcopia.
Yeah, don't ask me how to spell it. Yeah. But yeah, and on average, sloths actually fall out of those trees about once a week. So because their eyesight is so poor, it's not that they just get tired and they let go. That's immediately usually what people think when I say they fall out of the tree once a week.
Yeah.
And it's not because they get tired, it's because their eyesight is so poor. Sometimes they'll be just going along, reaching for the next branch, grab their own leg. Sometimes that happens, or they miss and they'll go tumbling down. But a lot of times what happens is if they're startled, if something is moving towards that sloth that they don't want anything to do with it, they're getting to the very end of that branch as quickly as they can.
I see.
If they get to the end of that branch and say it is a jaguar or an ocelot or some threat like that, and they're daring enough to go out on the end of that branch as well, if that branch breaks, then they're both going to go falling to the floor. But that's kind of best case scenario for the sloth because they can survive a fall from up to 100 feet in the air and be completely unharmed. Yeah. So on the inside, you wouldn't think it by just looking at her. You'd think her little spindly legs and everything should just be real fragile. But they are kind of built like trucks on the inside. They've got a total of 46 ribs. So that's 2 sets of 23, double what we have.
Really?
Yeah, and those ribs go all the way down right up against their hip bones, basically. So it's just a protective casing for them. And when they hit the ground, they don't really sustain any type of internal damage because they've got a lot of connective tissue that's holding all of their internal organs right where they're supposed to be. And all of those bones are protected.
Hang around counter and will not let go.
And as well as that, their bones are really flexible. So when
She bit the
they
tar out of a
it just
lady.
kind of, flexes and goes back to normal.
How many, is it usually just one, each has their own tree? Is there ever like, is there a couple with them?
Yeah, occasionally, if you ever see 2 sloths in the same tree, they're definitely not going to be snuggled up right next to each other, and they're going to have their own separate parts of that tree that they stay in.
Hello? Hello?
Yeah, and yeah,
Is it the trees over there?
especially when you have people like that come in and slam doors and slam stuff and are really loud. Since the sloth's eyesight is so poor, their sense of hearing and their sense of smell is really heightened. So sounds that just sound normal to us, even especially since we can see them, we can see what's going on. We saw when he came in, we saw when he was going to slam
And it
the
was
door.
even loud.
Yeah,
like
it's even
so it
louder
would've
for them. Yeah.
Does she grind her teeth, or is that a different noise that she's making?
Her opening and closing her mouth, every time they close their mouth, their teeth grind together just right to keep them all sharp. And so that's not because they, you would think that looking at the skull of a sloth, you would think they were like top of the food chain because of how impressive those jaws are. They don't have a very strong bite strength. But the teeth are all extremely sharp. They've got the 4 sharp canines, and all of their molars in the back are all pointed. They're not flat like ours are. So you would think that they were like, eating meat, but that's not the case. They actually just use those to grind up the leaves that they're eating. And they can use them for defense. If there was a jaguar or something that was staying close enough by, they could take a bite out of it. They definitely would take that opportunity. You definitely got the snuggly side. And it's funny, a lot of times what happens is it'll be like a couple, like you guys, like a married couple or something. Usually it's the woman that's like really excited about the sloths, like they want to come and see the sloths. And the guy's just usually like going along with it, like, I just want her to be happy and support her and everything. And they'll come in here and the girl will start holding for like the majority of the time, and Zoe's usually really comfortable and relaxed because the woman is, and it could be like a mom or something like that that's had a baby before. And then usually they'll convince the guy, like, you need to hold too, like I want you to have the experience. And he's like, okay, I'll hold if that's what makes you happy. But they're like real stiff and like uncomfortable, and you can see it. And Zoe says she's just looking around like, can I go back to you?
He's not like that.
No, yeah, she melted as soon as she got in her lap.
I think he's wanted to do this for a long time, haven't you?
Yeah, and she can pick up on people's energies too. Like if you don't want to hold Zoe knows that.
Right.
She's pushing away. She's looking around. She's looking at me like, they don't want this.
I think she knew I like to eat. That's what she and I were doing.
Oh my goodness.
Do we have time where she could hold it and maybe get a snuggle, or would?
We won't be able to transfer over
Okay,
again.
that's fine.
Yeah, I know, I hate that sometimes usually it's the first person that she'll be keeping a lot more.
Well, I could stay like this my whole time.
The transferring over part is usually the only stressful part of the entire encounter, because they're for just a second.
Now this
she's
one
in
here
there,
is Rachel.
she's there where her legs aren't attached to anything, and she's just midair about to grab onto someone new.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, we try to just limit that as much as we can, because sloths are very easily stressed animals. And while this behavior is something that she enjoys doing, she does genuinely enjoy human interaction. And if I were to go in there and just be trying to clean up her enclosure, and she's awake enough to see me and know that I'm not coming for her, she's climbing through the branches at me,
Trying to
reaching
get
out,
you?
trying to get me to pick her up. So she does genuinely enjoy this type of interaction, but there for that second where she's just midair, it's a little bit uncomfortable for her. It would be more stressful for her to go a day where nobody went in there and nobody held her than it would be for her to be fully booked. And her fully booked day looks like this. In the morning from about 10:30 to 11:30, she could be fully booked. She'd have a 30-minute encounter, then another 30-minute encounter, and she'd have a long break until 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And then she starts up again. She could have one from 2 to 2:30, and then 2:30 to 3, and then she's done for the rest of the day. That's her schedule fully booked.
That's a good word.
And so we try to keep, obviously sloths sleep a lot, and she would encounter for more than that. Right after, if she could have a fully booked day and I go in right afterwards, she's still trying to get me to pick her up. But with any too much of any good thing can be bad. So we don't ever want to book her back to back to back to back where she's just looking at us like, all right, when am I going to get to take a nap?
So the weirdest case of deja vu.
Why?
Did you?
Yeah.
Like you've done this before?
No, like there was that conversation that was going on.
Somewhere.
Yeah.
That's
That's
weird.
interesting.
I may have said it before.
No.
I repeat myself a lot. I know
But I mean,
that.
I have this weird recollection. I mean, I'm not saying anything weird about it. It was just kind of neat. Like at the cover. And maybe I would have watched a video of
Yeah.
you guys
Well,
on TikTok.
how did you guys hear about us?
TikTok.
Yeah, that may be why, because I do, I talk about all the same things through the same encounters and everything, and it's never in the same order.
Well, I
Once
just-
I start talking about one topic,
just
it
have
just,
it.
it's the same thing I say every
The
time.
one I watched over and over again was this.
Yeah.
The lady sat down
Mhm.
and no food, and it just
Yeah.
locked on, and I'm like, oh, that's what I want.
I'm glad.
And that's probably exactly where he came from.
Yeah.
And that guy that was in here earlier with the cameras,
Mhm.
he's on the video.
Yeah, that's Kevin, yeah. Yeah, thanks to him is how we have so much business now, from him just doing so much social media and everything, and really just reaching a lot of people, you know.
Okay.
How long have y'all been here?
The Warners moved in 2019, and when they first moved in, the only buildings that were here was the main house, the horse barn, and the Riverside cabin. So they
Okay.
immediately started renting out that cabin because they didn't have anybody to live in it, and they were just doing Airbnb.
Oh,
And
that's
then, you know, they had animals, they slowly started getting horses and goats and chickens and stuff like that. And so people slowly started having requests like, can we collect eggs with you in the morning, you know, can we go on a horseback ride, and different things like that. And they just enjoy being,
On the way to your other people.
they just enjoy being good hosts and just, you know, kind of seeing people have fun. And so they've always had a soft spot for animals, and they slowly just started to expand and get more and more, and get to the point that we are now. And even just within the past year and a half, they have expanded a lot. About a year and a half ago, they had 3 employees, 2 of which being the owners. So they really have gotten big quick. Now we have 21 employees. So
Really?
yeah. So we
Well, and
have grown.
everything is so nicely done and clean, and, you know, when it's very nice. We're so
Good.
glad we
Yeah.
found out about you all.
Good.
What's my time?
We are right at about time. Yeah, it's 2:31. I know it goes by so quick
Oh,
too,
no,
but.
If I'd held on longer, my arm would have went to sleep. So what do I do now?
You won't do anything. I'll just start petting her, and she'll start to realize that I'm standing here, and then she'll just start to hook on to me. Come here, girl. That's banana.
Is it strange that it'll hurt my feelings if she lets go? I was kinda hoping you'd wanna stay with me.
My son's good too.
Yeah. I'm
It
gonna
happens.
take the- yeah. I'm gonna borrow that
Thank
from
you.
you, just so I have some place here.
I'm up.
Here we go. All right. You guys are all set. We'll come out here. We're gonna sanitize our hands one more time.
Thank you so much.
You're very
And all the information was
Yeah.
wonderful.
Good.
Very personable, and like I just like the way you educate.
Yeah.